I'm at it again with another Unbox install video, but well, let's get the unbox done because this is going to be a big job. Today it's a power supply, Corsair HX1200i. Let's see. Normal packaging. Going quick. Get rid of the bubbles. Normal coupons. Done your taxes yet? More the same. Alright, here we are. See it? It's pretty, isn't it? Always clean up your mess. Alright. So, it's a Platinum Plus certified, so high-end power supply. I know it's weird to be excited about a power supply, but I am, and that's okay. And you guys are going to get a bonus. I don't know how quickly I can get the other one out, but my new case is coming on Friday. And that means I will be able to switch all the components from the case you're going to see here in a moment to the new case. Break the seal. They want you to do that just in case you want to try to say something was busted, wrong, something. Let's not block your view, huh? Owner's manual. Don't worry. We'll try to go through what all that means later. Cable management, that's handy, and a little powered by Corsair badge. Keep the moisture out. You've got standard issue power cable I will not be using. Look at this. See this bag here? They give you the bag for all your spare cables. Because, as you will see briefly, momentarily, they even give you a bag to put it in here, too. Not that you're ever going to need to take it out again. This is my first fully module power supply. My other one was half module, half not. And I can see the big 140 fan on top. Complete and utter modular design, so use as many or as little as you want. You can use the fan test button to turn it on and off because it is controlled by the Corsair Link digital software, so that you're not creating a bunch of noise when it doesn't need to be on. And the usual sticker, Bob, that tells you things about silent operation. So anyway, that's the unbox. Let's get to the install. As you may see, I've actually already gutted the previous power supply, which is actually this one here. This is a Antec DF or CP850. It was Antec making a specific sized power supply for their cases. It literally doesn't work in any other case. So step number one to getting a brand new, better looking case is I had to buy a power supply too. You may ask me why I'm installing this into the old case, even though I just told you I was getting a new case in 4 days. Well, two reasons. Because one, I want to make sure it works, and two, because I want to. There's one thing about power supplies now is they're designed to go in, well, I mean, honestly, it's kind of always been that way, but they're designed to go in two different ways most of the time. You can put it upside down or right side up. And honestly, they're interchangeable. There is no upside down or right side up. There's even cases now that hold the power supply in vertically, like this. And it leaves open the ability to make two. I don't see the point in that. This is 1200 watts. I run a production computer. There's no reason I'm going to need more than 1200 watts. But you never know. I'm impulsive. So, with that in mind, even though I want to see the pretty fan while it works, it's going to be better if it's pulling the cold air from the bottom. Now, this case is set to have it that way. However, it doesn't have that added benefit of having a vent there like the new case does and a lot of current modern cases do. So it's got feet. So for now, that'll just have to do, because it's going to be out of here again in 3 or 4 days anyway, and I'll make a video of it. So you just slide it in. Because it's fully modular, it's super easy. Slide it in and match up the screw holes. And then you find your screws. Awkward time opening the Ziploc bag. I enjoy that they have gone to making screws all black now, because all cases are getting, you know, powder coated in the inside of them now, because they want them to look better, and they're matching all the fasteners, which I appreciate, because it means that it looks better, and I'm all about looks, and that's like half of this upgrade so far has been looks. There are 4 screws that you put in all the way around, corner to corner, and it will depend on if you're putting it top up, or, you know, fan up or fan bottom, depending on where the screws are going to be. They're not in just your standard square pattern. Now, technically, it's installed. Obviously, there's a lot more to do. Namely these. Let's see how many of these we're going to end up needing. Alright, so, the one that fell out, conveniently, the biggest, baddest MFer in here that definitely needs to go in. And it is the 24-pin motherboard power supply. Now, this case doesn't have as good of cable management options as, well, say my new Corsair 750D will be similar, but the case, you know, they'll be grommeted, and there's actually more space behind the Corsairs for these big cables. But Corsair does this great thing where they're flat. They flatten them out. So even if you're not sleeving them, you can still manage them very simply compared to the circular bundled when you've got this tiny space back there. So your standard plug 24-pin bar, modular side. You got to find the right spot down here. It's going to be clearly marked, or it should be. It is. And it's the very bottommost one, which means that you can go build up, which is nice. Follow the pattern and you don't crisscross your cables too much. Okay. That is now attached. I don't know how well you can see that. Let's move you down a bit, eh? There we go. You're not going to see me as much, but you'll see where I'm working. That is attached. Now in my case, I know I'm going to use it, so I'm not going to go hunting to plug it in this second. I'm just going to fold it over so it goes out the back. We're going to move on to the next segment of things we definitely are using. So what do we got? Yeah, peripheral and serial ATA is the last on the bottom row, so we obviously need SATA because everything runs on SATA. Man, I love the overabundance of cables that this case gives me. Case? Power supply. Yeah, I'm a professional. No, I'm just a hobbyist, and I say weird things sometimes. Now, thankfully for me, I only have, well, technically 3 devices that are powered by this, which is, of course, the 2 hard drives and the HX1200i from Corsair. Problem is that they are kind of spaced apart, so getting one run may be difficult to get that to work, but I'm going to try. Because you don't want to use cables, too many cables, if you don't have to. Only use the bare minimum for what you need and utilize every inch that you can. I've actually got it pretty easy right now because there's not a lot going on here. I've got 2 hard drives. I have a solid state that is an M2 slot, so I don't have to plug that into SATA or power. So I could run this entire computer without the hard drives in it whatsoever. I don't run a disk drive because they are, well, they're obsolete at this point. And So there's really just not that much to power. I've got some goofy things that aren't going to make the trip to the next computer, so I'm not going to worry about wiring those in here. But I really just need SATA, motherboard, and CPU power. And that's what we're looking for now, CPU power. They're actually all marked, except for the ones that are clearly obvious what they are. But Molex, these are the PCIEs. Looks like they're, I forgot about my PCIEs too. I do need that. They're the make 'em an 8s instead of a solid 8, which is fine. I can live with that. What I'm looking for is a power cable that some people don't even know exists, but it does. And here it is. The CPU power. It actually has its own power supply on the board. Some people don't know that. Heck, you're probably watching this to try to glean some insight on how to power supply. There you go. Type 3. So this one will go in the same rails as the PCIe, because technically they're pretty much identical cables. Alright, see, I'm running them all out the back because I'm not running anything directly up, even though they're black and they match the case, which is going to be great when this is all together. It's going to be harder to see, but I'm still going to make an effort to make it clean for the 4 days that it's going to be in here. Alright, so back to PCIe, that thing I forgot, which I was kind of hoping I'd get a solid 8. Let's make sure that works. It does not. Okay. We gotta do this dang 6+2s. It's fine. It's fine. I wish there was a PCIe that only had one on it. There doesn't seem to be a PCIe with just one on it, which is disappointing. So I've got this extra doohickey that's going to be definitely showing somewhere. So I'll probably, in the new case, I'll make more of an effort. In this one, I'll probably just... And just for shits, I'm going to put one of these in. Yes, they're just for the goofy lights, but what harm is it going to do for a couple days? I say, thank God I don't have to use them, considering where they are in this thing. It's really ugly location. All right, well, that's pretty much that for plugging everything in. There is another step that I want to try to do, but I'm going to figure out if that's possible because I have a limitation. Here's what I mean. This here is a mini USB, right? And a board-connected USB slot. Yeah, Asus didn't give me very many 2.0 slots, and I'm not surprised. USB 2.0 is on its way out the door. So the two I've currently occupied are the front port, the one front port, no, two front ports that work up there for now, and the same one of these that goes to the cooler. Now this is the technology that they call Corsair Link. This is the way to control all of the aspects of the cooling, of the power supply, fan speeds, everything through this interconnected network of cables. And they actually do supply a kind of a board USB splitter, but I didn't opt for it. It's fine. I'm going to see what it is, see what it natives to, and it's probably going to be just fine. All right. It's time to flip it over, start running the cables up the back. Oh dear God, it's a huge disaster, right? Yeah, well, I mean, I did just undo all my cable management to pull all the power out. So, yeah, it's going to look gross. And I'm not going to use my limited supply of cable management ties because I'm not going to permanent anything in here. So the most you're going to see me do at the end is, or maybe even not, I'll just tell you, I'm going to be Velcroing them together with the handy-dandy Velcro strips that I have to do that with, because I don't want to make it permanent, and it'll do. It'll do fine. Now we're going to work bottom to top. The bottommost power all the way up to the top. That way you run less risk of crisscrossing on your way through and building a stack of cables that you can't put your door over. I'm going to start with that goofy Molex. And literally all it is right here. don't see it on the, you know, inside of the case. Nothing. Really, that just gets shoved over here for now. Now let's get on to the more important cables. We have hard drives, CPU, graphics card, mainboard. So we have to figure out the order in which that goes. Now, the hard drives and the GPU are pretty close together. Probably wouldn't matter in your case. I actually have a special way that I run these here SATAs through, or at least the way I did with the other case. And it looks like I'm going to be able to do the same thing, which is grab this here SATA line, and I've got these little divots in the side right here, right under the hard drives. So I run it up the side where there's bulk of mass cable can be shoved, and I just gently shove the crap out of it through here. Now the trick is, can I just do those three while still doing this one? This one is the main power to the Corsair 100i GTX cooler that it needs to run. So I know it looks like a mess. It's gonna always look like this until you see the next video when I get the next case, and it's gonna be a lot more in-depth, probably. Yeah, anyway. So we run that through. That's probably going to do fine. So I'm going to leave it the way it is right now and start running the other cables, and I'll turn it back around and actually start doing the plugs in the end. Graphics card would be the logical next step because they're on the same level. Now my GPU is roughly here. So the question would be, what would make the most sense and what would make it look better? And in my opinion, a similar thing that I did with the hard drives. Now this does mean that the excessive PCI is going to be out there for now. I don't think I'm going to have this problem with the new case, but this is why I like the flat cables, because this giant traffic jam right here of all the old cables with the new ones going over it, this used to be a really, really annoying part for putting the back on. Even when I was cable managed and everything was tied up all nice, it was still a pain. These two kind of travel a similar path. Now, mainboard is the next step, and it usually goes along the rails here on the side so that it can go out the front where it will be plugged in. I'm going to throw it under the fan cable so that there's no arguments before it. So you get it tied in, you can yank it back. That's step 16. There's a lot of steps. And then this one's similar. It runs up the same length, but it goes out above the CPU. Now, you guys have cases. You have different cases. Some of you have older tech that's going to use Molex and IDE, and that's fine. It's slow, but it's fine. But on the whole, you're really just going to be working with big motherboard cable, all your drives cables for the SATA, the Molex, if you have any type of fans on your case that weren't board controlled. Like I went and swapped all these out for Cooler Masters that were board controlled, so I don't Molex them anymore. But you might have case fans that aren't that way. That's when you'd use the Molex a lot more. After that, it's just all your PCIEs. I lucked out with the Asus. With the video you saw before, I only need one 8-pin. But before, with the, well, I guess it was the 7 series I had, you needed 2 6-pin, and I'm glad they're dumbing it down, but still. Let's flip it back around, shall we? Some of this may be hard to see. Making this video on the quick, so I don't have much time. We're recording a podcast later, and FedEx is evil. We're going to, again, start bottom to top. Since there's really nothing on this level, you kind of just want to get the cables in the general directions they need to go and then move towards it. The graphics card is a little lower than the hard drives, but that doesn't change my methods. The idea is minimal exposure, and this will look better in the future with the other case. And I gotta keep saying the other case. It's in a few days. We'll talk about it then. I don't know. This came out back here. This is not what I want. This needs to come out from under the drive and then pop into place on each drive. These are the hard drives here. So I brought it out from under. I used the top one here at the very top and let the cable wind down all the way down below so that you can pinch, carefully pinch that there. And there's this. I don't know how well you can see that. There's this. Now on my previous power supply, it was just 4 wires, so it was a little easier to deal with. But it's not impossible here. It just takes a little bit more creativity and a little bit more force to do what I did in a similar fashion. This is just a simple thing to make it look better, especially when you don't have the time, money, or skills for full sleeving. You see here? Now it's not there anymore because I just took it out, folded it under the hard drive, put it back. Motherboard, 24 pin. This one's hard because you have to fight the stiffness of the brand new cable. And you also have to fight the stiffness of the brand new plug. And not put too much pressure on the board as you're plugging it in, which I don't think I did. So now the board is plugged in. Now similar is you just basically want to fold it so that there is no twists in anything. As best you can, keep the twists out of things, and you'll be able to run them easier. Alright, so in the case of the CPU, I had to flip it around because the lip is on the opposite side as I thought, but no bigs. Really, that's kind of it. That's all the power connected. I'm going to save you having to hear me talk while I wrap all this up. I'll probably just time-lapse it for you. I guess it's done. I should probably put it back up there and maybe allow you guys to see me better, hey? Well, I guess I wasn't being so truthful about hearing and seeing me better, but I just wanted to, you know, see if it works, huh? So far, so good. Better than the last time I installed something and it didn't boot up. Well, honestly, that's it. It's difficult if you don't already know where you're running and you've got to find the best routes. I've been doing this case for 5 different years. It always looks awful behind the door, and it's always the same. The next case, that's going to be more fun, because that gets to be me being creative and trying to make it look as good as possible. Stay tuned for that one. It's coming up soon.